base has dropped on the Wednesday of MLS Cup week, December 5th. It's a cold one in Atlanta. It's not raining or snowing or sleeting or any of those things yet, and hopefully it doesn't. That's a message for you out there. Let's not have that happen on Saturday, please. Soccer down here, well past Wednesday. Jason Longshore, John Nelson here with you. Jarrett Smith will be joining in a little bit. He is on assignment at the moment in Marietta at the Children's Healthcare of Atlanta Training Ground. John, let's start with last night. We had a supersized edition of Stoppage Time at Fido Irish Pub. It was a full house. It was people were there early for Dukes and Bell, which was awesome. I know those guys were really pumped to see all of you guys. Exactly. I'm not cool enough to pull that off. So let's get into a couple of the highlights from last night. If you were not there, if you did not get a chance to listen on 92.9 The Game, the Facebook Live edition is available over at facebook.com/929 The Game. It will go out as a podcast as well as a separate just audio edition. But here's a couple of highlights. We had a ton of guests. It was just a lot of fun to do and a lot of fun to put together. Let's start with Romario Williams, Atlanta United striker, who is injured really close. If the final was next week, you could be looking at Romario Williams pushing for a spot in the 18. But he is just back to weight-bearing training this week. So just not enough time for him to recover. But we talked to him a little bit about just going into this final and how Portland was so difficult back in June. Some things to expect on Saturday. And here's Romario Williams' thoughts. What's going to be the key to break that down on Saturday in your mind?
Yeah, I mean, they're very good at what they do. I mean, they went into the playoffs as a fifth seed. I mean, no one expected Portland to come out of the West, but I mean, those guys believe in what they do, and they have a very good setup out there. They came in June and they had a game plan and they stuck to their game plan and it worked. You know, they're a very good defensive team and they're very good on the counterattack. They have very good players in Valeri, Blanco, guys who are good players, can unlock the defense at any given point in time. So, I mean, I know they're going to come in, given the situation, the atmosphere, the crowd and everything, they're going to come in and they're going to try to make it tough for us, make it a tough game, make it a battle. We're going to have to scrap at times, but we've proven that we can scrap with teams throughout the playoffs in our 4 games thus far with the whole New York teams. So, I mean, we're excited for the challenge. We're confident. They're confident. And, I mean, I'm looking forward to an exciting game. Should be fun.
Yeah, this is going to be a big-time final in my mind. I mean, I just have a different vibe. And yeah, I think we are a little, emotionally invested in it. But I think the game has a different vibe than the last two with Toronto and Seattle. I think the first time Toronto and Seattle faced off in 2016, it kind of felt like that culmination of MLS 2.0. Last year, look, honestly, after the game in 2016, there wasn't a whole lot of excitement going into last year's final because the 2016 final was not exactly beautiful soccer. The conditions had a hand in it. The tactics had a hand in it. And Toronto ended up lifting the trophy last year in a better game. I mean, I think Toronto was by far the better team last year. And they culminated their treble winning year. This feels different, though. I mean, I just think, looking at the national media, and we'll start to get, I think, a much better sense of the national vibe starting today as people start to get into Atlanta to cover the final. I just feel like there is a greater expectation, not just for the atmosphere in the building, not just for, the rise of Atlanta soccer, but for the actual match itself. I think there is a greater expectation for a better game on Saturday.
Well, and we're all drawn to shiny objects. And so when you look at how Portland went to Sporting, did what they did, as Mike Conti referred to it, the drone strike, that's about as accurate as a a personification as I can come up with. When you have moments like that, and it culminates in an absolutely crazy game in that final 45 minutes, and you see what Portland has been able to do, knock off one, knock off two, and keep coming. And we know what they've been able to do when they were the hot Portland, not the cold Portland, kind of coming in toward the end of the regular season. But when you've seen what Giovanni Savarese has been able to do and see how unbeatable they've been at times, and then you see how Atlanta United has been this entire season, it's two different ways to get to the last game of the year. And it's been fun to see both of them get to this point. And I think that it's going to be elevated because it's a championship game, elevated because of what we've seen for these guys getting to a championship game. So I think that you have those added layers that haven't necessarily been there in years past.
Portland comes in after that win over Kansas City, and last week on our pre-match coverage on the Five Stripes Countdown on 982.9 The Game, we had Jillian Sakovits, and we talked about the Portland-Kansas City series, and Jillian and I were both on the Portland side from the very beginning. I've just been such a fan of Giovanni Savarese from his time with the New York Cosmos and the NASL.
Yep.
I mean, even going back to 2016, when you're starting to look at, well, who's going to be the first manager of Atlanta United, Savarese was a name that I kept coming back to, and he wasn't really mentioned at that point. He was in a great spot with New York and what they were trying to build, and he put his heart and soul into that team. The story is about when the Cosmos actually closed up shop at the end of 2016. I mean, they were out of business for a month or so before Rocco Camiso bought the team and revived it. Savarese basically put himself into the hospital because he was working tirelessly to find his players somewhere to play and get paid in 2017. Like, that's what kind of guy Giovanni Savarese is. So you have to pull for a guy like that. His success has been great to see, and Portland has really, benefited from it. Here's a clip from Jillian Sakovits last night about Savarese and about Diego Valeri.
Look, they're a good team, but Diego Valeri, to me, has been the MVP of the postseason. I mean, he's Mr. Clutch. They come through when they need him, but they're going to have to rely on other guys. They're about to face Atlanta United, so I think that's going to be an interesting matchup of, maintaining a guy like Diego Valeri. They have other assets, but to me, he is just their number one.
How much credit do you give to Savarese and coming into this, replacing Caleb Porter, who had really built Portland into a behemoth in this league, and then he leaves in a good spot. It wasn't a rebuilding effort that Savarese walked into, but he was able to make this team his own.
Yeah, and I think that there were rumors around why Caleb left, wanted to go out on top, that he couldn't make it his own team, that maybe he wasn't picking the guys that they weren't picking the guys he wanted. I don't know, but Caleb left a good roster there, and Gio worked with what he was given, and I think all the credit needs to go to Gio, and I think Merritt Paulson knows that, because I doubted Gio in March when they couldn't win a game and Liam Ridgewell's walking off,
right,
and there was all that drama. I was like, this guy can't. It didn't look like he could control a locker room, but suddenly something changed, and it's all been working ever since.
I think a lot of people doubted Giovanni Savarese in March during that rough ride with the road games at the beginning of the season, with the Liam Ridgewell situation where he was left out of the 18, didn't travel.
Yep.
Lots of questions. And I just kept coming back to watching his Cosmos teams and watching them firsthand here in Atlanta against the Silverbacks in the NASL. It always blew me away how prepared they were for anything that could happen in the match. Any kind of tactical thing you'd throw at him, he had an answer. The little details, because so many times you see a team like that one, which was a superstar team in that league. It was a team that was spending, not on an MLS level, but a team that was spending a lot of money for a second division level. He had a better roster than anybody in the league, no question. But they did the little things well, because so many times you see that situation where that team is just, we're going to rely on our talent, just put our best players out there, and we'll just play and we're fine. Savarese's teams were good on set pieces. Savarese's teams were good at those little things that you have to put in the work to do. And I knew he would find a way to be successful. He's too good not to be. So he came in, and I think the piece that was on MLSsoccer.com this week started to kind of open that up a little bit as to, what was it like at the beginning? Why was it difficult? You were coming off the back of Caleb Porter, who is different personality, different style. What he puts out there is a very different feel than Giovanni Savarese. So Gio, I think, had to come in and get a feel for what that was, what this team was like, what the mood, the vibe, the personality of this collective, of this group was like. And then in some ways, he had to break that, and he had to break it down so he could make it his own. And that's what that time at the beginning of the season was to me. Having that road trip, I think it helped in some ways. It hurt in the short term. It helped in the long term because you had a little bit of an out for the early results. You could prepare to be in good shape when the home matches started. And then you go on a 15-match unbeaten streak. And that's a pretty good way to earn everyone's trust and get everybody over on your side. I think Savarese has done one of the best managerial jobs we've seen in MLS, and I don't think that's going to stop anytime soon. I think Portland's going to be here to stay for quite a while.
No doubt, no question. I mean, when we had been discussing Giovanni Savarese forever and having seen him forever. It's not like the cupboard was bare when Savarese walked in the door. And it was taking all of those ingredients that were in the cupboard and trying to come up with the Savarese lanyap that would work for what he was trying to accomplish. And I think, to your point, having those road matches at the beginning gave him the opportunity to sit there away from the cauldron in Portland and see what he could do. And then that run that they went on with the run of unbeatenness, it really, I think, woke everybody up. It's like, okay, so this is a guy, and it reinforced that this is a guy who knows what he's doing and is taking these pieces and molding them into something that he thinks will work and will function over an entire season. And we've seen it in runs and moments of brilliance and moments of beauty. And to have someone who is as intense a manager as Giovanni Savarese is, I think it adds that extra little bit of spice to what's going on that we've seen this season in Portland. So for me, it's been a fun watch to sit there, and because I remember the Liam Ridgewell thing, and you're just kind of sitting there, and to me it was one of those and you can take one path or the other, and they kept at it and kept working at it, and you've seen the end results. And he lets what was the word? Practice is enjoyable, I think was the word that was used when it comes to making sure that the whole vibe that Portland has is an enjoyable learning vibe. And you see that in how the players create on the pitch and are able to express themselves through how they are as athletes.
Yeah, it's what the best managers do. I mean, to say that it's enjoyable does not mean that it's not, putting in the work. It's getting the work to be enjoyable. That's what the best do. And that's what you see with Atlanta United. That's what you see with Tata Martino. That's what you see with Portland and the Timbers and Giovanni Savarese. The team buys into the need to do the work. It is enjoyable to be good at what you do, and that is the difference. I think it's a subtle difference. I mean, Caleb Porter, the talk from some of the players in Portland was that it was, a quiet intensity in training. That can get old after a while, I mean, you want to have some fun with it. And if you're having fun while you're putting in that work and you're getting the results that you're looking for, you're in good shape and you're going to be just fine. And I think that's what Giovanni Savarese has been able to create with the Timbers. Sometimes you just need to change up the personality a little bit. That's why you see managers come and go a little more frequently in soccer than other sports, because it does wear on you. It absolutely does. I mean, you look at college football. I think if you didn't have players coming and going every 4 years, you would see coaches move a lot more than they do, because that style, it wears on players after a while. You know, you couldn't have Nick Saban yelling at you for more than a couple of years. You're going to get sick of it. So it's kind of like that here, in that you can only progress the project for so long to such a point before it needs something else. And full credit to Caleb Porter for realizing that. You know, I think he could see and could sense that I've taken this group as far as I can go. And Jillian, you know, alluded to it. There were some other things out there about Porter leaving because he didn't have complete control over the roster. He didn't have final say over what players came in, and he's gotten to a point that he might get that. We'll have to see where he ends up, or if it's, you know, at least more of a voice in that side of it. But I think more than anything, he sensed that, you know what, this group needs another voice. And the biggest thing I'll give him a ton of credit for, and I think he does get a big assist in Portland making MLS Cup this year, is that, and he mentioned this in his article, I believe with Paul Tenorio in The Athletic back in the summer, as they talked about what's next for him. He said that he didn't want to leave when the cupboard was bare. He didn't want to leave when the team was in decline. He wanted to leave something there for whoever came in after him to work with. And he left at the absolute right time. And that's the hard thing sometimes for a manager to do. Because, hey, they're in MLS Cup. Caleb Porter could have gotten them to MLS Cup this year. I don't think he would have, though. I think they needed that different voice. They needed that change in the vibe, that change in the training day to day. And they got that with Giovanni Savarese, and I think that's why they are where they are. But Porter gets an assist for building it, and I think Porter gets an even bigger assist for knowing when to step away for the good of the club and the good of these players in this group to get the most out of them. And that's very rare that you see a manager or a coach have that sense and know when it's time to go without hurting the program when you do it. We're going to take a break, come back, clip from Felipe Cardenas on the other side as we start to dig into a little more of the tactics of Atlanta and Portland and MLS Cup. It's a Wall Pass Wednesday, so questions from you guys will be a big part of the show today. Tweet at us at Soccer Down Here. Use the Wall Pass Wednesday hashtag. We'll get to those as we go as well. We'll have Jarrett Smith join us in a little while with his update from the training ground in Marietta. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
The average time a resume spends on an HR manager's desk is 7 seconds, and most of them are tossed aside. Now imagine if one of those resumes belonged to Yasmin, who was
living in a shelter, juggling 3 jobs. I had to be resilient. That's something that you can't teach.
We rely so much on a resume, yet it could never tell the full story of someone who
had to be independent and take initiative. And that's how I handle every project I get.
Discover new ways to develop great talent at gradsoflife.org. Brought to you by Grads of Life and the Ad Council.
We know that every driver is different, and a one-size policy does not fit all. That's why Country Financial offers a variety of discounts, so you get the coverage you need and the savings you deserve. From good driver to good student, multi-policy to multi-car, we've got a discount to suit every driver. Call Jason Wright at 678-568-6871 today to see what you could save. On Facebook at Jason Wright Agency, or by phone at 678-568-6871. Discounts vary by state. Policies issued by Country Mutual Insurance Company, Country Preferred Insurance Company, or Country Casualty Insurance Company, Bloomington, Illinois.
Hey, hon, what you doing with your phone? Taking pictures?
No, I'm asking it questions.
Like what?
Hey, Bobo, do flowers have best friends?
I'm sorry. I'm afraid I don't know that.
Hey, follow me. I want to show you something. Look, flowers do have best friends.
Whoa.
Some answers can only be found in nature. Discover the unsearchable. Visit discovertheforest.org to find a trail near you. Brought to you by the United States Forest Service and the Ad Council.
Soccer Down Here is sponsored by Apolinski & Associates, LLC, personal injury lawyers with over 30 years of experience. Call Steve Apolinski at 518-350-4231 or email him at steve@aa-legal.com if you need help with a wrongful death or serious injury matter. Steve Apolinski is rated one of the top 100 trial attorneys in Georgia, recognized as Legal Elite by Georgia Trend magazine for being one of the most effective lawyers in Georgia.
Welcome back. Soccer Down here, December 5th edition. Wall Pass Wednesday. Questions forthcoming from the peeps out there in the Twitterverse. But first, we're recapping last night's stoppage time live, 92.9 The Game at Fido Irish Pub in Buckhead. That is a great spot if you're looking for somewhere to watch the game on Saturday. It's one of Atlanta United's pub partners. Now, Fido has 2 locations in Atlanta. The Buckhead location is the only one that will have the match on Saturday. And I know your jaw's dropping and your head's spinning, and you're like, what? They booked a private party that rented out the whole pub at the Midtown location over a year ago. So,
oh,
wow. I don't think they're very happy about that booking at this point, but it is what it is. The Buckhead location is huge. Still get there early if you are not headed to Mercedes-Benz Stadium, because I think that's another underrated part of this. And this is something I keep trying to explain to people around the country. I think in other MLS markets, the fan base, and when I say fan base, I'm talking the not people who show up once in a while to the game and don't really pay attention. I'm talking about the people who are invested in this. The fan base for Atlanta United is far more than the people who are just in the building. I don't know if that's necessarily the case with all the other MLS markets. I think so many times you look at these other markets as it is the people in the building. It's 20,000. It's 30,000. That's it. It's a weird thing. And I think with Atlanta, that's going to come to fruition on Saturday, because you will see both 72, 73, 74, maybe 75,000 people at Mercedes-Benz Stadium. And you will also see the bars, the restaurants full. It will be a massive citywide thing. It will have a Super Bowl kind of feel for it. Every time I've said that, when I talk to folks around the country, it's kind of like, oh, yeah, okay, sure. No, it is. It is. You can stop thinking that soccer's so small, folks. Atlanta's going to show you that it's not. Just embrace it, enjoy it, and accept it, because that's where it is. Let's hear, last night we started talking a little bit of tactics as we get ready for Atlanta-Portland. Felipe Cardenas of The Athletic joined us and dug into that a little bit with him at the end of that segment. Here's a clip from it.
They'll take initiative. They'll kind of own the game and own the tempo, and that sounds like Atlanta United. You know, the game should play into their hands, but that could be a scrappy, nothing to lose Portland team as well. They get an early goal and they force a good team to chase, and all of a sudden they're in control. So I think whoever really kind of just grabs the initiative, the first 15, 20, the looser team really should come out with that trophy.
Does this feel to you, Jason, like if Portland scores the first goal, Atlanta United's in real trouble? If Atlanta United scores the first goal, it might not be a done deal yet.
I don't think it's either way. I think both teams have shown hard at different times this season to come back. I mean, we have the Atlanta win in San Jose where they had problems all night long and found a way to win that. And I think that's where this emotion really does come into play. That's what's going to push them forward if they do concede first. And Portland is a team, you know, beyond what Valeri and Blanco can do from the run of play, we've seen it on set pieces firsthand. Diego Valeri is a magician. He's going to put the ball into a dangerous spot. And you have Liam Ridgewell. You might have Mabiala, who are going to be weapons and targets in those situations.
Ridgewell, who scored against Atlanta United 2 years ago at Providence Park. Both meetings between these clubs, by the way, have produced 1-1 draws. Julian Grassel has scored in both matches.
Yeah, I was about to say, you know, we were talking about the stars, but that next guy who's going to do it. And, you know, from a defensive standpoint, I'm glad you mentioned Diego Chara, because Portland's only won 2 games without him since he's been in Portland. And he'll be big. He plays that role kind of like Eric Remedi has had for Atlanta United. How important is he?
I mean, he's huge. He kind of gets this rap of being like a tough tackling, defensive center mid, and he is. He can get stuck in, but he's so good on the ball. He's so smart. He can just move throughout that midfield and really link up play as well. And he's really important for that team when they transition to defense to counter. So it'll be interesting to see if Tata kind of tasked Miguel Almiron with saying, you need to shadow Diego when they transition, and that might be the guy to stop and keep the ball, keep Portland playing in their own end. So he's huge. He just has a presence about him. He's had a great career in MLS. In Colombia, he's well known. He's just a good player.
We'll break down deeper as we go this week. We'll start with the attackers today as we kind of break down attack, midfield, defense, kind of broad conversations. We're not going to look at it as you see. One thing we won't do like a Super Bowl is we're not going to break down position groups and give a check or an A or a B or whatever. It's because that's not how this works, and that's not how this game's going to play out. It's not player A, B, and C versus player A, B, and C. Who is better? We're not going to do that.
Who is better?
That's not how it works. We're not going to go monster truck rally voice on you. We're going to talk about how each team attacks. We're going to talk about how each team plays in the midfield and how each team defends, because this is why it's not a position group thing. Diego Chara. Diego Chara is in the midfield for Portland, but he is an essential part of the defense. Okay, we're going to talk about him from both perspectives. Diego Valeri plays in a midfield role for Portland, but he is an essential part of the attack. We're going to talk about it in attack, midfield, defense perspectives, not player, because that's not how this game especially is going to work. And I think this is, to me, the model for where MLS is headed. MLS and just soccer in general, but I think MLS is catching up to it now. It's not you play right wing, and that is all you do, and you only go forward and put in crosses. It's not 1984 anymore. You have to do all aspects of the game pretty much in every position. That's how Tata Martino and Giovanni Savarese train their teams. That's how the best teams in the world train their teams. And it's one reason why the level in MLS has improved so much. This is not down to player by player who is better at this role. Because let's be frank. Joseph Martinez versus Jeremy Ebobisse. Joseph Martinez is your Golden Boot winner, potentially your MVP. Yeah, obviously, you're going to check him off if you're comparing and you're saying who has the advantage. Jeremy Ebobisse has earned the starting job for the Portland Timbers, and he might not score a bunch of goals, but he makes Diego Valeri and Sebastian Blanco better, and when that's very important. He fills a very important role. He's not the guy who's expected to lead the team in goals and lead this attack by himself. It's a different role. That's how you have to look at the way this game plays out, because I think you have lots of chess pieces if you're both managers in this, and it's going to be how you use them and maybe more importantly in this one, how you pair them up and how you find advantages when you're able to get Valeri and Blanco together in a part of the field, where you're able to get Martinez and Almiron together in a part of the field to combine, where you're able to create those little societies on the field and let them control things. That's what's important here, and that's why you're going to see such an overlap between the attack, the midfield, and the defense. It's not player by player and you're only in one group. You're going to see players who contribute to all three facets, and that's going to be important when they change the game by combining and when they change the game by creating those overload situations that we talk about a lot.
And I liked how you phrased it as little societies, because it's 2 and 3 players working in concert, whether it's going forward, coming backward, or staying put. And it's how well those groupings can integrate themselves into whatever aspect of the game they're working at, whether we have to do things to move the ball forward or we have to retreat just as quickly to get things done defensively. And I think that is, while those of us on high or those in the 300s are looking at it from an all-22 perspective, I think that the notion of looking at pairings, groupings, and integration of, individuals. And I know that we all sit there and we look at Blanco Valeri Chara. We look at Joseph Miguel and, pick a third, whether it's Tito or, Barco, Nagbe, whomever. Those little societies that you'll see and all those relationships and how well they get together at the lunch table and sit there and do whatever they need to do to get things done. I think that was key. And I liked your phraseology there as someone who is still somewhat learning the game. But for me, it's not just about the all 22. It's about those 2s and 3s that hook up and how they hook up and how quickly they hook up and the fluidity of what they're able to do.
Yeah, I can't take credit for coining that. I don't know exactly how it came about, but this is from my friend Ricardo Montoya, and I'm assuming it's part of translation from Spanish to English, but it's the best way to explain it, because when you look at a game, it's so often not necessarily the entire 11 working in concert at all times. It's those little groups, and you have to find those in your team. If you're Portland, Giovanni Savarese all season long has tried to figure out, one, how to protect a back line that has had some issues at times. So he's had to figure out what to do with that. As it's been Diego Chara and David Guzman, which we've seen a lot lately. That pairing has worked. Guzman was injured early on, and then he was at the World Cup with Costa Rica, so you had to figure out other things. That's why you saw 3 central midfielders in front of the back 4 at times. That's why you saw the 5-3-2 here in Atlanta back in June. He had to figure out how to protect that. But also, he had to figure out, okay, I've got to protect this side, but I have to get Blanco and Valeri together in parts of the field. I have to get them close to one another. I have to get them playing together in parts of the field, because that is my most powerful combination I have. I think Tata Martino has done the same in the postseason. The Miguel Almiron injury maybe kind of pushed him into that, but we saw it every time this season against New York City FC. Before the Miguel Almiron injury, it was Miguel up top with Joseph Martinez. Most of the year, we've seen Miguel as a number 10 most of his time in Atlanta. I think Tata Martino said, look, it's the postseason. We have to make things maybe a little simpler in some ways. We have to get our 2 best players together on the field. Miguel can still impact the game in terms of his defensive work, as we saw in the second leg against the Red Bulls where he led the team in tackles. But you want Almiron and Martinez up top combining. You want that society together. You want them to break things down. You also want to find the other pairings that work. And he's created one that I did not think would be as effective as it has with that midfield trio of Remedi, Nagbe, and Gressel. That's worked extremely well. And that's another little society on the field that has protected this team and not allowed them to really give up many chances. It's all about those groupings on the field, and they're not necessarily down to attack midfield defense and breaking your roster out that way. It's just about finding those combinations that work. Sometimes it's a right winger and a right back. Sometimes, like last season, it was Greg Garza and Yamil Assad. That was a great pairing. That was a great, little society on the field on the left side. That's why Atlanta attacked down the left side a lot last year. You have to find those that work for your team, and I think Savarese and Martino have both done a great job of doing that. We'll get into your questions. We'll also get into some news from around the league, some big news up in Columbus. It looks like it'll be breaking at about 10 o'clock on a stadium potential deal or refurb or something. Lots of news in the TV circuit in Columbus on this. We'll update you there. We'll update you on some other news and rumors around the league as well. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Sweet strawberry icing. You're in Goodwill, and just past that vintage denim jacket you spot miniature donut earrings. You lean in. Ah, that's the scent of shopping success. Because at Goodwill, every item you buy funds local job training and more. So bring home those donut earrings and bring home so much good to your community. Goodwill. Bring good home. Brought to you by Goodwill and the Ad Council.
Soccer Down Here is sponsored by Appolinsky & Associates, LLC, personal injury lawyers with over 30 years of experience. Call Steve Apolinski at 518-350-4231 or email him at steve@aa-legal.com if you need help with a wrongful death or serious injury matter. Steve Apolinski is rated one of the top 100 trial attorneys in Georgia, recognized as legal elite by Georgia Trend magazine for being one of the most effective lawyers in Georgia.
Hamilton was adopted from a rescue in 2008. He really likes to be around people. I get out my mat and I'm doing a downward dog and he's underneath. He's quite the pug about town. He gets invited to a lot of parties. He knows he's a pretty big deal. Look at this little face. How could you not love him?
Hamilton the Pug, Instagram star and shelter pet. Amazing adoption stories start in shelters. Visit theshelterpetproject.org to find a pet near you. Brought to you by Maddie's Fund, the Humane Society of the United States, and the Ad Council.
As a business owner, you know that every year brings new challenges and opportunities. The success of your business demands expertise and focus. And Country Financial can help you keep that focus by helping ensure you have the right insurance protection in place to meet your goals. Jason Wright can help you create a customized insurance plan that has coverages designed just for your business. Give Jason a call at 678-568-6871 or reach him on Facebook at Jason Wright Agency. Coverages vary by state. Policies issued by Country Mutual Insurance Company, Bloomington, Illinois.
Welcome back. Soccer Down Here, December 5th edition. Some news out of Columbus popping up this morning, and I'm not sure exactly how much news is going to pop up. I've seen some varying takes on this. It started early this morning with Dom Tiberi of WBNS Columbus TV tweeted that he was hearing there could be a press conference at 10 in the morning, big announcement regarding the Crew's future and the stadium. And then WTTE Fox 28 followed up. Mayor Andrew Ginther, city and county officials, and business partners are giving an update on the status of the Crew and plans for Montfrey Stadium. Streamed at 10 o'clock on WTTE Fox 28. And more, keeps popping up about this as well. Dom came back and said he's hearing that the news conference this morning will be about the stadium, hearing there will be more news tomorrow as well. Remember, Berhalter's gone now. You have to hire a manager. You have to hire a general manager. There have been interviews. Reportedly, Caleb Porter, Josh Wolf have been interviewed for the manager job. Reportedly, people with U.S. men's national team connections have been interviewed for the GM job. And the new ownership group is conducting this. So if you have this group having these interviews, it seems like it's all but done that they will be in charge of the team going forward. There was also talk that the purchase and the deal could get done by the end of the month. Maybe it will be done very soon. Have to wait and see what the reports out of Columbus are at 10 this morning.
Big update here. Well, not big update, but just in addition to what you're saying. Ben Gerberick from ABC 6 and Fox 28 says sources are telling him stadium gets a practice facility and a youth sports complex, public-private partnerships. Say that 10 times fast. Public-private partnerships will pay for them.
At Montfrey or a new downtown stadium?
It just says new stadium.
Okay,
no modifier attached.
Yeah, then I would assume it's about the new downtown stadium because unless they're just going to rebuild at the fairgrounds, which is not that bad of a location, to be honest. If you've been to Columbus, it's not like it's that far out. It's not Frisco. It's not Bridgeview. If you could get downtown and the area that they've talked about, I think closer to the arena, yeah, that'd be amazing. It's also not cheap, so we'll have to see how this comes together. But we'll have more after the press conference gets started at 10 this morning. Good news in Columbus, and it looks like things are moving forward pretty well. On the stadium front and just on the growth front, there was an interesting article yesterday in the Louisville Courier-Journal. Now, remember, Louisville City building a new stadium. I believe it is 11,000 seats and standing room general admission that could take it up to 14,000. So in the Louisville Courier-Journal, they reported that Mayor Greg Fisher of Louisville, his office has been in contact with Major League Soccer for a while now to see how they can better position themselves as a contender to join the league. They have not submitted an expansion bid. They did not during the last round of expansion. They probably weren't ready at that time yet. Now, with what they've done at Slugger Field, now what they've done, getting everything in place to build a downtown stadium, it's a different conversation for Louisville and soccer. Jeff Mosley, the city's general counsel and former deputy chief for Louisville Forward, their like Chamber of Commerce type of group. That's the city's economic development arm. He added that the talks are in the discovery phase. That's a quote. But said MLS has been, quote, very responsive and very interested in Louisville. The new stadium that they're building is expansion ready and can add 10,000 seats easily within a year. That would bring it to between 21 to 24,000 capacity. That's in that ballpark for MLS. Keep an eye on Louisville. Louisville's been mentioned maybe not regularly for major sports expansion, but fairly regularly in terms of the NBA. We know the basketball scene in Kentucky, Indiana, that area. Louisville had a very successful team in the ABA, the Kentucky Colonels.
Mm-hmm.
There's been a lot of talk about bringing the NBA to Louisville. Now, if we want to go really big sports business on this, the Seattle NHL announcement could make Louisville NBA actually happen. And here's why. Seattle has been wanting to get back into the NBA, obviously, after the Supersonics left. They couldn't get an arena done. Well, now hockey's coming in, and they're going to refurbish Key Arena. Now, it's crazy how they're going to do it, and John, you might know a little more than me on this. It's the roof structure is a protected structure that they could not do anything with, so it's almost like I think the phrase I heard was they're taking a melon baller and scooping out the arena and rebuilding it underneath the existing roof. That's going to be where the hockey team plays. Well, that solves a problem for a potential return of the Supersonics. And I don't think the NBA wants to have relocation. I don't know who would relocate. So they're going to want to expand and get to 32 teams like all the other leagues. Keep this in mind with MLS as well, because that number becomes a bit of a magic number. Okay, you get to 32, or you want to get to 32. You want to add Seattle. Now you've got the arena sorted out. You got to add one more. Who has a group that has been trying to bring the NBA to their city? Louisville. Dan Issel's been leading a group for a while there now. But what was interesting in this Louisville Courier-Journal post, and this did come out before the NHL announcement with Seattle, was that the city felt like, look, MLS is in the midst of expansion. We're talking to them, and they're very interested. We have a better chance right now with MLS. And they also talked about the values of the teams and the growth and all of that. The city was prioritizing MLS over the NBA because they felt like it was more of a sure thing at this point. So it all is kind of interrelated, John. It's a fascinating time for professional sports in this country as you see the NHL and the NBA find their opportunities. I think the NBA is really well positioned to continue to grow. But MLS is right there alongside of them now. And even if some of the old school editors don't see it that way, MLS is one of the biggest properties right now in American sports.
Yeah, and to get back to your Seattle point about the melon ball idea, basically it's been referred to as both complicated and expensive. And literally you have to, because of the surrounding neighborhood, minimize the impact. And that's why, quoting folks who are managing the project, everything outside of the building never changes, complete reconstruction of everything underneath. So what you're doing is you're making sure that the hockey rink is in line with a basketball court, and they're going to dig down 15 feet below and expand the space currently there with that melon ball, so that way you can pull everything. You're going to hold the roof up, dig underneath, and not damage the surrounding neighborhood. So that was the part of all of this. And to the tune of about $700 million for the renovation. So if you want something badly enough, you're going to do what it takes. And Tim Leiweke saw that, okay, we got to do something here. And it's just really, really funky. But an opportunity, NBA's not really looking at Seattle right now as much as they want to stomp their feet and sit there and say, we want the Sonics back. So that's why you've got the NHL in there first to prove what's going on.
Yeah,
oh,
I think
know.
that's what it is.
The NBA is sitting there saying, well, not right now, but NHL is going to prove that it's an irresistible market. And I don't think if you're the NBA, you can turn down a top 15 market just because you don't want to.
Look, now I disagree completely. I don't think the NBA's doing that. I think the NBA was stuck because the group that was trying to bring the NBA couldn't ever get the arena side. I think the NBA would love to be back in Seattle. They just couldn't ever get the arena side done. It's the hockey team that's getting it done first. And I think the hockey team's doing it with the idea that, yeah, you're going to have the NBA there too. You're not going to just do all this expensive, complicated melon balling of Key Arena. You're not going to do that by itself without two tenants in there to pay for it. So I think it's all – the NBA is going to be in Seattle. I don't think there's any question about that.
I'm not disputing that. I'm just saying that what is being said right now is the NBA is putting up that front where they're sitting there saying, okay, well, no, we're fine right now. Guarantee you. When the money is there and folks want to be there in a top 15 market, you're going to find a way to get it done.
It's going to be there. There's no question. I think the NBA said that because up until the hockey team was announced, they didn't have a place to play. That was the number one thing, because you can't go in there if you don't have a place to play. That was why the Sonics left in the first place. So now you get a place to play. Now you can do it. Now you can create a path to 32. Louisville could factor into that. That's why this is actually an interesting situation when it comes to MLS, because in a perfect world, MLS gets into Louisville first. Now, Louisville's in a little bit different situation. Their arena that the University of Louisville plays at, I believe it's NBA ready. I think it was built for that in mind, to be able to do these types of events. You might have to have a little bit of work done, but you're not going to have a huge public spend on building a new arena. So that makes it a little bit easier for MLS if you have to have some public money go towards maybe expanding the stadium that they're building, maybe more bonds, maybe those types of things. That would be a pretty big 1-2 punch for the city of Louisville to bring MLS and the NBA, over the next few years. And Louisville has shown, from a soccer perspective, Louisville City's been one of the biggest success stories in the lower divisions. So I know Louisville's not a major, huge market at the moment, but it's a market that I think MLS could have a lot of success with. Now, the Louisville City club and fans have to continue to prove that, and we'll see where that goes. But keep that in mind. Louisville is not a complete, outside-the-box idea for MLS. And remember that 32 number, because NFL's at 32. Major League Baseball's at 32, right?
Is it 30 or 32?
They're one of the two. I think they're at 32. And if they're not, then there's talk about them expanding. Portland could come into Major League Baseball at some point.
Yep.
I believe Seattle takes the NHL to 32.
Yes.
Okay. The NBA will want to get there. If that's your number to be major, then that's your number. Well, MLS has got to play
30
to
in
28.
30 in MLB.
Okay. And Portland and, who knows, Charlotte.
Montreal.
One that keeps coming up. Montreal's another one. There's a bunch of ideas. So MLS wants to get to 28. They're going to get to 28 in the next few years. We've said for a while, if the interest is there, why stop?
Yeah.
Keep going. And Louisville could be in that next wave. So we'll see. It's going to be fascinating. It's going to be fascinating to see. Now, MLS also has the possibility of going in a completely different route and adding in a promotion relegation and adding in a second tier in MLS and completely flip professional sports in the United States on its head and have 40 teams, but in two divisions, 1 and 2, and all kinds of chaos and pipe dreams and black helicopters and all the things. That could happen too. We'll have to see. It's going to be crazy. But keep an eye on Louisville. It's going to be a story to tell, I think, as Louisville continues to push and right now lead the way in USL. Because with Cincinnati coming up to MLS, Louisville is one of your headliners in USL right now. And they're going to get a lot of attention in the USL Championship in 2019, as they should. And as their new stadium comes online and gets built and opens up, they'll get even more attention. So the talk about Louisville continuing to grow and continuing to move up, there's legs to it, I think. And looks like there's legs in Columbus on a new stadium and new ownership getting done here soon, and we'll be talking about that. Columbus, Cincinnati, Louisville, it's a pretty good rivalry setup, isn't it?
It's a good three-way dance.
Yeah, if Indy can get their stuff together, throw them in, and you got a party. You got a Midwestern party. We're going to take a break. We'll come back, get into your Wall Pass Wednesday questions after this.
The average time a resume spends on an HR manager's desk is 7 seconds, and most of them are tossed aside. Now imagine if one of those resumes belonged to Yasmin, who was
Living in a shelter, juggling 3 jobs. I had to be resilient. That's something that you can't teach.
We rely so much on a resume, yet it could never tell the full story of someone who
Had to be independent and take initiative, and that's how I handle every project I get.
Discover new ways to develop great talent at gradsoflife.org. Brought to you by Grads of Life and the Ad Council.
We know that every driver is different, and a one-size policy does not fit all. That's why Country Financial offers a variety of discounts, so you get the coverage you need and the savings you deserve. From good driver to good student, multi-policy to multi-car, we've got a discount to suit every driver. Call Jason Wright at 678-568-6871 today to see what you could save. On Facebook at Jason Wright Agency or by phone at 678-568-6871. Discounts vary by state. Policies issued by Country Mutual Insurance Company, Country Preferred Insurance Company, or Country Casualty Insurance Company, Bloomington, Illinois.
Hey, hon, what you doing with your phone? Taking pictures?
No, I'm asking it questions.
Like what?
Hey, Bobo, do flowers have best friends?
I'm sorry. I'm afraid I don't know that.
Hey, follow me. I want to show you something. Look, flowers do have best friends.
Whoa.
Some answers can only be found in nature. Discover the unsearchable. Visit discovertheforest.org to find a trail near you. Brought to you by the United States Forest Service and the Ad Council.
Soccer Down Here is sponsored by Appolinsky & Associates, LLC, personal injury lawyers with over 30 years of experience. Call Steve Appolinsky at 518-350-4231 or email him at steve@aa-legal.com if you need help with a wrongful death or serious injury matter. Steve Appolinsky is rated one of the top 100 trial attorneys in Georgia, recognized as Legal Elite by Georgia Trend magazine for being one of the most effective lawyers in Georgia.
Welcome back. Soccer Down Here, wrapping up hour number 1 on a Wall Pass Wednesday, a few days away from MLS Cup at Mercedes-Benz Stadium. Saturday night, kickoff will be just after 8 o'clock on Fox, locally Fox 5, your Fox affiliate around the country. At least 30 minutes of pregame there. We'll be getting started with a 2-hour Five Stripes countdown on 98.9 The Game starting at 6 o'clock, and we will have Kevin Egan and Dan Gargan co-hosting with myself and Mike Conti throughout the show. So that'll be a lot of fun. We'll have lots of special guests as well. It will be a packed house at the Benz Saturday night, and we'll have all your coverage. After the game, we'll have lots and lots of coverage no matter what happens. So if you're there and when you leave, flip it over to 99 The Game. I know people take their radios in and listen to their radios at the stadium, which is amazing to me because I used to do that. Have at it. You can listen, if you have FM transistor, you can listen that way, but you can also listen on the radio.com app and the Atlanta United app. Both have your coverage. You can even be like, somebody tweeted at us at the last game. They said that whenever there's a VAR situation, they get up and they run to the bathroom so they can hear the radio call because we explain what's going on. I'm like, okay. I'll take that as a compliment.
That's epic.
I wish that wasn't necessary, but
bathroom
thanks.
Listening. Mike and Jason.
Yeah, the bathroom becomes a packed place during a VAR situation so people know what's going on. Welcome to MLS. All right. What do we have on the Wall Pass Wednesday Twitter timeline, John?
Well, let's just start with the first one, considering that it showed up about 5:45 this morning, and it came from Nathan. If Portland comes out with a back five like they did in June, does Tata keep the back three and force Nagbe and Remedi further up the pitch? Opens yourself to counters, which is what they would want, but more on the front foot now attacking third. # Ball Pass Wednesday.
I don't think Portland comes out in the back five, and I think it's mainly because they've settled into this 4-2-3-1, and it looks like Larius Mabiala will be ready to go. You have an injury question about him. You have an injury question about Michael Parkhurst as well on the Atlanta side. Both say they're going to be ready to go. Both say they're going to play. So I think both teams play the way that they have been playing to start. That would be Atlanta in the 3-5-2/5-3-2. That would be Portland in the 4-2-3-1. Both have a lot of flexibility built into that and can move the pieces around without making a bunch of substitutions. So I think for Atlanta especially, Portland is going to sit deeper than New York City did, than the Red Bulls did. That's how they play. They don't step up high and press. They don't try to have a bunch of turnovers in your defensive half. They generally sit and recover possession deeper, and then they're not really a quick strike counter team either. They like to string together a lot of possession. So when they get the ball, they like to string together a bunch of passes. Now, they don't need a lot of the ball. They're not going to have a high possession number in this match. But when they do get it, they like to connect passes, and they hold the ball for a little bit of time. That's going to be important here. And it's something where Atlanta does have to worry about the counter, but it's not in the same way in terms of a quick strike that we saw with the Red Bulls, where they're trying to turn you over and go to goal immediately. Portland's going to turn you over much deeper and take a little more time because they're going to try to work the ball to Valeri and Blanco in dangerous spots. That's where they have their success. I think Atlanta starts in the 3-5-2, but my question is, if Portland sits deep and concedes possession, does Atlanta get to a point where in its 3-5-2 it says, you know what, we can push more numbers forward? And what does that look like? Is it Jeff Larenowitz stepping into the midfield and pushing everybody up higher? Is it just Larenowitz or LGP picking their spots to push forward? Is it, your outside backs pushing very high because they can? Is it maybe Julian Gressel going back out to the right wingback role because you're going to have more of the ball and you can work the ball to him in dangerous spots more in a spot where we know he can provide quality service? Those tactical questions are going to be fascinating about this game because it's just such a different type of feel than we've seen in the postseason with Atlanta United opponents. I think Portland will approach it very differently. I'm curious to see how Tata Martino answers that because this will be the first time in the postseason where they can say, you know what, we're going to have the possession. What are we going to do with it? And that could change the way they line up, both personnel placement on the field and shape. All that could be affected by Portland's strategy coming in. We're going to take a break, reset for hour number 2. We'll keep you up to date on what's going on in Columbus, but we will also get into more of your questions on the Twitter timeline. Tweet at us at @SoccerDownHere using the Wall Pass Wednesday hashtag. We'll be right back.
Sweet strawberry icing. You're in Goodwill, and just past that vintage denim jacket you spot miniature donut earrings. You lean in. Ah, that's the scent of shopping success. Because at Goodwill, every item you buy funds local job training and more. So bring home those donut earrings and bring home so much good to your community. Goodwill. Bring good home. Brought to you by Goodwill and the Ad Council.
Soccer Down Here is sponsored by Apollinski & Associates, LLC, personal injury lawyers with over 30 years of experience. Call Steve Apollinski at 518-350-4231 or email him at steve@aa-legal.com if you need help with a wrongful death or serious injury matter. Steve Apollinski is rated one of the top 100 trial attorneys in Georgia, recognized as Legal Elite by Georgia Trend magazine for being one of the most effective lawyers in Georgia.
Hamilton was adopted from a rescue in 2008. He really likes to be around people. I get out my mat and I'm doing a downward dog and he's underneath.
He's quite the pug about town. He gets invited to a lot of parties.
He knows he's a pretty big deal. Look at this little face. How could you not love him?
Hamilton the Pug, Instagram star and shelter pet. Amazing adoption stories start in shelters. Visit theshelterpetproject.org to find a pet near you. Brought to you by Maddie's Fund, the Humane Society of the United States, and the Ad Council.
As a business owner, you know that every year brings new challenges and opportunities. The success of your business demands expertise and focus. And Country Financial can help you keep that focus by helping ensure you have the right insurance protection in place to meet your goals. Jason Wright can help you create a customized insurance plan that has coverages designed just for your business. Give Jason a call at 678-568-6871 or reach him on Facebook at Jason Wright Agency. Coverages vary by state. Policies issued by Country Mutual Insurance Company, Bloomington, Illinois.
You're listening to Soccer Down Here daily on SDH Networks, a division of OSG Sports. Find us at Soccer Down Here on Facebook and Twitter. The time is now the top of the hour. Peep, y'all.
Welcome back. Hour number 2, Soccer Down Here, December 5th, Wall Pass Wednesday edition of the show. We're taking your questions, your comments throughout the show, mostly about MLS Cup, but we'll also be keeping you up to date on what's happening in Columbus right now. Press conference. Looks like it will be about stadium things, could be about ownership things as well, about the crew, but it looks to be very good news for the Save the Crew movement and next steps for soccer's success in Columbus. John's keeping an eye on that, and in the meantime, let's dig into this a little bit. Our friend Howard over at Soccer Metrics, if you're not following them, Soccer Metrics on Twitter, great analysis of, not just MLS, but obviously Howard in the United States in Atlanta has focused on MLS a good bit. He also has a lot of great coverage of the Argentine Superliga as a big fan of Vélez Sarsfield. He just posted his front office efficiency graphic, and let's dig into it just a little bit. I'm going to retweet this from my own personal Twitter at Longshoe, and we'll retweet it from Soccer Down Here in just a bit as well. This digs into not necessarily, to me, it's efficiency. To me, it is who is efficient in spending their money and how many points they've earned with how much they've spent. You could say cheap or stingy too. But if you're having success with not spending a ton of money, to me, that's a good thing, not a bad thing. And every club has different strategy. Every club has a different, idea coming in. Some clubs have more money to spend than others. So if you're not spending as much, you have to be very efficient in how you use it. You don't have as many opportunities if, hey, you miss on a signing. Well, you don't have a whole lot of money to replace that guy. If you're spending more money and you miss on a signing, all right, you can eat that. You'll be okay. Howard breaks this down into a deep way, but in the graphic, are you surprised to see that the New York Red Bulls have the lowest payroll cost per point earned? They had the most points in the league, and they had a low payroll. So pretty obvious, and that suits what the Red Bulls have been about since Red Bull took the team over. Once they moved away from the Thierry Henry, Rafa Marquez days and said, you know what, we're going to develop from within. We're going to promote our own players. We're going to create a system that fits what we're doing, and we're going to be efficient. They have. They've had incredible success at it. Now, it's funny that you start to see after this postseason failure where you didn't get to MLS Cup, you've had 3 supporter shields with no MLS Cup in the last 6 years. Now you're starting to hear people say, well, now it's time to go spend some money. Now it's time to go find some of these playmakers. Kaku was supposed to be that. He was for the first half of the season. He wasn't for the second half. Can Chris Armas get more out of him? Because they spent some pretty big money on Kaku. We'll see. But by far, the Red Bulls were the most efficient team in MLS in 2018. Houston Dynamo were next. Even with a low points total, they had a very low payroll. We've talked about the Dynamo a good bit. They had that low point total. They also won the U.S. Open Cup. that margin for error is so key with the Dynamo, because if Juan David Cabezas, their number 6, their defensive midfielder that they had on loan in 2017, it was one of the most important moves in the offseason going into 2018, in my opinion. He was injured in Game 1 against Atlanta United and came back at the very end. You didn't get much of him this season. If you had him, the Dynamo are a playoff team. Without him and without a replacement, they had 38 points. That's the slim margins when you're not spending as much, and the Dynamo are a prime example, although they were the second most efficient in terms of spending versus points earned. Dallas was next. Again, it's not a surprise. FC Dallas is a team that's trying to develop their own players, promote their own players. They're not spending crazy money on designated players. Makes a lot of sense. 57 points. They hosted a knockout round game. Not a bad year for FC Dallas. Question is now, moving forward, Oscar Pareja's gone. What do things look like in 2019 and beyond? Who replaces him? Do they promote from within, as they generally have? Is it going to be Luchi Gonzalez? Is it going to be Marco Ferruzzi? Or do you go to the outside, but somebody who I think would fit into the model of what FC Dallas is, with Tab Ramos, who has been a candidate reportedly in Dallas? Stay tuned. That's going to be one of the biggest moves of the offseason in MLS. Next couple most efficient, or, depending on how you look at it, cheap teams in MLS. Vancouver, New England, Columbus. New England, to me, feels more on the cheap side. And I think a lot of this is because we know what they could spend. Vancouver, Columbus, different situation. New England, payroll cost per point was $77,000. For Columbus, it was $87,000. We know Columbus, we especially know this season, they weren't spending much money. Anthony Precourt wants out of Columbus. I don't think he really has the money to spend in that way. We know Robert Kraft does. He just chooses not to. Those feel very different, don't they? Atlanta United, kind of in the middle, at $101,835 payroll cost per point. Seems about right, to be honest. That feels about right, because Atlanta's going to spend a lot of money. They also had a lot of points. To be right in the middle feels where kind of you want to be if you're one of the bigger clubs here. Where you don't want to be is at the bottom. Toronto, $400,000 plus per point. A lot of that's due to injuries that is unavoidable. Toronto this season kind of feels like an outlier in that regard. I think generally they're going to be in the middle of this type of table. Now, the ones that are concerning are Chicago. 32 points, $13 million plus in payroll, $300,000 plus payroll cost per point. Can't have that continue to happen if you're the Chicago Fire, because this is not a one-year blip. This has been pretty consistent. San Jose is high here. They didn't have a high payroll. It's only over $7 million, but they only earned 21 points. Again, that feels a little bit more like an outlier for them. The LA Galaxy can't be in this spot. 14 plus million in payroll. 48 points, $163,000 plus payroll cost per point in the bottom four. It's unacceptable. Colorado, $8.7 million payroll, $159,000 payroll cost per point. Are they any closer to changing that? I don't know. I'm not sure. New York City spent a lot of money to get 56 points. They probably would have been better if they hadn't had that slump late at the end and earned more points. They would have been closer to the middle. Chicago and the Galaxy are probably the two here that are the most concerning, because they are spending a lot of money. They did not make the playoffs. They're spending a lot of money to get not a lot of points. That is not where you want to be in this league. That is not where you can be in this league. You want to be, if you're going to spend that type of money, you have to get the reward on it. You can't, if you're Chicago and you are spending twice as much on your payroll as the New York Red Bulls, and the Red Bulls are getting more than twice as many points as you, there's a problem. There's a huge, massive problem if you're spending twice as much money and you're getting less than half as many points as the team. That's not good. And that's something that Chicago has to change. The Galaxy, I mean, same thing. You're going to spend that kind of money. You have to have better results. So dig deeper into this. It's over at Soccer Metrics, at Soccer Metrics on Twitter. We'll keep sharing it. We'll keep getting into it. It's interesting to look at this, and you can take it a few different ways. As I was having this conversation with Howard last night, you can look at it, our team's cheap, our team's efficient. I think the Red Bulls, efficient. I think Houston Dynamo, efficient. FC Dallas, efficient. New England Revolution, cheap. Real Salt Lake, efficient. Really good number here, less than $100,000, $87.8 thousand payroll cost per point. Pretty good situation to be in. Then the flip side, you just get wasteful. Chicago, LA Galaxy, wasteful spending. That's a whole different conversation. We're going to take a break. We'll be updating you on Columbus news after the break. We'll also get into some rumors, and we'll get into the Wall Pass Wednesday timeline. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
The average time a resume spends on an HR manager's desk is 7 seconds, and most of them are tossed aside. Now imagine if one of those resumes belonged to Yasmin, who was
living in a shelter, juggling 3 jobs. I had to be resilient. That's something that you can't teach.
We rely so much on a resume, yet it could never tell the full story of someone who
had to be independent and take initiative. And that's how I handle every project I get.
Discover new ways to develop great talent at gradsoflife.org. Brought to you by Grads of Life and the Ad Council.
We know that every driver is different, and a one-size policy does not fit all. That's why Country Financial offers a variety of discounts, so you get the coverage you need and the savings you deserve. From good driver to good student, multi-policy to multi-car, we've got a discount to suit every driver. Call Jason Wright at 678-568-6871 today to see what you could save. On Facebook at Jason Wright Agency or by phone at 678-568-6871. Discounts vary by state. Policies issued by Country Mutual Insurance Company, Country Preferred Insurance Company, or Country Casualty Insurance Company, Bloomington, Illinois.
Hey, hon, what you doing with your phone? Taking pictures?
No, I'm asking it questions.
Like what?
Hey, Bobo, do flowers have best friends?
I'm sorry. I'm afraid I don't know that.
Hey, follow me. I want to show you something. Look, flowers do have best friends.
Whoa.
Some answers can only be found in nature. Discover the unsearchable. Visit discovertheforest.org to find a trail near you. Brought to you by the United States Forest Service and the Ad Council.
Soccer Down Here is sponsored by Apolinski and Associates, LLC, personal injury lawyers with over 30 years of experience. Call Steve Apolinski at 518-350-4231 or email him at steve@aa-legal.com if you need help with a wrongful death or serious injury matter. Steve Apolinski is rated one of the top 100 trial attorneys in Georgia, recognized as Legal Elite by Georgia Trend magazine for being one of the most effective lawyers in Georgia.
Welcome back. Soccer Down here, December 5th, Wall Pass Wednesday. We'll have some updates from Columbus. Big things going on in Columbus with the Mopfre Stadium site, which means it looks like you'll have a downtown stadium in Columbus down the road as well as things progress for the Crew. But Jarrett Smith with us after leaving the Children's Healthcare of Atlanta training ground. How's it going, Jarrett?
Man, it's going all right. Cold morning. It was one of those mornings where you get up and you look outside and, like, it's winter. The sky is very blue. Man, I could just look outside and see how cold it's going to be. And it was that cold, but everything was inside of the training ground, so we were happier for it. I'm sure most of the Argentine contingent was happy as well because that's who we spoke to today. It was Tito Franco and Ezequiel Barco. Tito and Ezequiel both talking about, making that change to being guys coming off the bench and just that team mentality of, trying to help the team. It is a change to be coming off the bench as opposed to starting games, but, it's a change that you got to make as you try and, as you're trying to chase a cup. And they've embraced it, and you've seen the results of that. Did get to ask, and I enjoyed this part getting to ask Franco Ezequiel about which he enjoyed, whether that one-leg or two-legged final. Apparently, he's a fan of doing the one-legged final, so score one for MLS. I disagree with him. I wish we had two-legged finals. So there's that.
Yeah, same here. What else came out? I know Michael Parkhurst was on the morning show at 92.9 The Game, and he said he hasn't been training, but he will be ready to go. He's making it very clear that he will be playing in his 5th MLS Cup and looking for his first trophy. What else did we get out of training this morning?
I stand by my comments the night of the Red Bulls game. You're going to have to physically drag Michael Parkhurst off the field for him not to play in that game. Just a morning of just talking to guys who seem pretty relaxed right now. A lot of conversation drawing off of their comparisons in Argentina, playing in different cups. And it's a nice reminder that how many of these guys have experience beyond just league here and league in Argentina. You've got guys like Tito and Ezequiel Barco who have played in cups, who won cups. They not only have they gotten to the mountain, they've climbed the mountain before. This isn't new for them. It was a really good conversation as well with Tito Villalba about soccer culture in America versus Argentina. And he said, in Argentina, they live the game 1,000%. And he thinks that the United States is getting there the way that Argentina is. They're growing in that direction. But what he likes about it is, as America is growing in that direction, they're taking the good things out of that living it to 1,000%, but they're not taking the bad things and the violence and bringing that to it as well. So it's all of the great things about what he's used to and none of the bad things right now. And I think he's really enjoying that. And I think they all are.
Yeah, I think that's a key, and it's something that has to continue. Kind of struck me as I started digging into some of the transfer rumors that are hitting right now. Right now, there's a lot of transfer rumors out of Brazil coming to MLS, and that probably wouldn't have happened a year or two ago because the Brazilian league has plenty of money. You're not in the same situation that outside of your top clubs in Argentina are, and you're not in the same situation as other leagues around South America. And the Brazilian league doesn't need the money, but I think you're starting to see players want the lifestyle in MLS as well as the competition and as well as the spotlight that could send them on to a club in Europe. The names that are being linked and from the clubs they're being linked from out of Brazil right now, and it is getting to the start of silly season and things could change, it's definitely another caliber of player. And I think the guys here with Atlanta United have been a big part of raising that awareness.
Yeah, I think they have as well. And, they talked about they've all got their WhatsApp and there's group chats between the players. Not just with Atlanta, but around the league. And, Giovanni Savarese had the comments that, MLS is becoming a priority for South American players, coaches, everything. And I think we asked Franco Escobar about that. He said, yeah, that's where it is right now. And, that's where it's going. It impacted what he thought he was going to come into and what he's dealing with Atlanta United. He said, it's tougher than you would have expected coming out of Argentina. If you'd have talked to people a year ago, the perception of MLS, he said it's a lot tougher than what you're told from that second or third hand account when you're down there and you're kind of looking at MLS from afar. But he's appreciating everything here. He's hitting his stride in a way that he's comfortable with, which is we've talked about this, and we heard the quote out of the Red Bulls game that Tata Martino said, "This is the Franco Escobar we bought." And I think you're seeing that hit stride. And I think that's a lot of why things are going really well right now, is that you have a Franco Escobar who is hitting his stride. But yeah, this is going to stretch beyond, I think, just the Argentine players. It's going to get to a full-bore South American revolution. You've got, and we joked about, they're going to knock Tito off the Argentine group chat since he's playing for Paraguay's national team now. But they'll just have to make an entire South American WhatsApp group. But there's a lot of communication.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, there's a lot of communication, a lot of camaraderie between all of them, and there's a lot of pride involved. And I think it's going to continue to grow, not just for that country, but other countries, other guys coming in from different countries, as they continue to come into MLS and, really just set things on fire.
Absolutely. Your rumors right now, especially in Brazil, Peruvian international left back Miguel Trauco is being linked to the Seattle Sounders, 26 years old. He's playing at Flamengo, one of the biggest clubs in Brazil. Chris Henderson has been spotted in South America scouting in the last week or so. So Miguel Trauco, left back, could be headed to Seattle. Another player from Flamengo, Diego, 33-year-old Brazilian attacking midfielder, is linked to Orlando. Now, 33 years old, you kind of wonder what he has left in the tank, but this is a guy who played at Juventus, played at Porto, played at Werder Bremen, played at Wolfsburg, Atletico Madrid. He won La Liga with Atletico Madrid. Four goals and 34 caps with Brazil in his career. He had 6 goals and 3 assists in Brazil's Serie A in 2018. Still playing at a very high level. Orlando could get another playmaker. Now, what do you do with Sasha Kljestan? I don't know. Do you find a way to play them together? Does Kljestan drop into that 8 role that he played in Europe when he was over there? Maybe, but does he have the legs to do it now? I don't know. Dallas.
I'm going to be fascinated to see. I'm going to be fascinated to see how the prices work, because we saw it. I think with the Barco, was it Vicentes Jr.? Forgive me.
Vinicius Jr. to Real Madrid.
Vinicius Jr. Yeah, I think we saw the difference in the stereotypes of, cost between the Argentine and the Brazilians. I wonder what the price tag is going to be for Brazilian players coming out of there, as opposed to players coming out of the Argentine leagues, and how much of a difference there may or may not be.
Yeah, now Vinicius Jr. is a little different because of his age.
Oh, yeah.
That's going to factor into it, too. You were buying a lot of potential with him, Real Madrid, spending that kind of money to lock him up. So, Diego, 33, even Trauco at 26, another player, 25 years old, center back, Bressan. He is a Brazilian center back, reportedly headed to Dallas, regular with Gremio. He was part of the Copa Libertadores championship squad last year. This is not a guy who's on a bench. This is not a guy who's not playing somewhere. This is a key player who is in the middle of his career, who's linked to a move to MLS. This is the kind of move out of Brazil. I don't think MLS is going to get the Vinicius Juniors anytime soon. Those 16, 17, 18-year-old guys. But the 25, 26-year-old guys who have been in Brazil, who haven't gone to Europe and are thinking, maybe I have one more shot at going, I'm going to go to MLS and get seen by a different group in a different light. You're also going to get the guys like a Diego, who is at the end of his career and wants that good life, but can still play. Now, again, I'm not a big fan of going to get the 33-year-old attacking midfielder if he is my key signing, and I'm less of a fan of it if I already have Sasha Kljestan, who plays a similar role, but this is Orlando we're talking about. No, not exactly a surprise. This is what they're doing. Also, they are owned by Brazilian ownership, so you have that factoring in as well. You're going to see more moves from Brazil. That is another step for MLS and South America, and becoming that league of choice, that destination for South American talent. Now, right now, you won't regularly get the Ezequiel Barcos, the Vinicius Juniors, that type. In a few years, maybe it's a different story. But right now, you're going to get the Franco Escobars. You're going to get the Leandro Gonzalez Perez's. You're going to get Bressan. You're going to get a player like Sergei Santos, who went from Brazil over to Chile, and he's linked to Philadelphia right now. He's playing at Audax Italiano in Chile, 9 goals in 15 matches this fall. That's that goal scorer that Philadelphia is desperately needed. You might get a really good price on this guy. So that could be a great signing for the Philadelphia Union. It's a new world for MLS, and I think Atlanta United's been a big part of opening that up. But now you're going to see more and more teams take advantage across the scale of bringing players in, because it's not just going to be the big money signings. You're going to see guys like this who might be a $3, $4, $5 million transfer, might be a TAM salary, but have a huge impact on the growth of this league and improving the quality. I think you're going to see a big jump in the quality of MLS in the next couple of years, and Atlanta United's opened that door, but other teams have to take full advantage now.
And one of the things you said in the first part of your qualifier is important, is about the older players. Like, you want to come here, you want that lifestyle. You're going to have to be able to play. This ain't MLS of old now. If you're going to be an older player and come here, and there are plenty who can. There are plenty of guys who can come here and still play at a high level, but that's no longer going to be he also can still play. It's going to be, he's going to have to still play, or, we're putting you out to pasture, because if you can't still play, you're not any good to anybody at this point with MLS. You got to step in and play. If you're 33, 34 years old and you still got it, come on. Especially if we can build a marketing campaign around you as well. Oh, hell yeah, let's. But if you can't play, if you're going to be Pirlo and come here and be a traffic cone, no. And then you get in your last game. Remember Pirlo's last game, that playoff game where we thought, wow, this would be amazing if Pirlo, comes in his last gasp with New York City and gets a goal and sends them. Nope, that ball just went into row H. Never mind, we're done here. Those days are done. I mean, I didn't like them to begin with, but you're not signing somebody. You can't afford to sign somebody just because they want to come here and be that big name, formerly great player who's just going to coast at this point. Because if you do that, it's going to burn you.
When I saw the Diego rumor for Orlando, my head turned sideways, kind of like my dog Gwen's does when she hears a siren off in the distance. If Orlando was close to a playoff appearance even, but let's say probably a better way would be close to winning a title, and you need that player to put you over the top, you want to go get a veteran. You want to go get a veteran 33, 32, 34-year-old player who's got a year, maybe a year and a half left in him at a high level and can put you over the top, that last bit of quality that you need. Love that type of signing in that scenario. If you're Orlando and you are basically starting from scratch because of bad decision after bad decision, I don't know if a 33-year-old attacking midfielder is the way to go. I don't.
You also have an aging roster anyway.
Well, you've addressed some of that with some of the guys who have moved on, but putting a midfield together of Will Johnson, Sasha Kljestan, and Diego is not the path to success in MLS at this point. So, in principle, seeing a 33-year-old signing to a team could put you over the top. It's not going to do anything for Orlando, I don't think, unless he's got more legs in him than we think. If he can give you 3 years, maybe he starts that rebuild. I don't know. But this feels like a very weird link to me. I mean, this is a big-name player. He's not Kaká. And that's something that I always see this brought up, and we're going to go to break here in just a second, and we'll finish with this. I always see this brought up when you see a player linked, and we've seen everybody from Diego from Brazil, and Brazilian fans know Diego. We've seen guys like Arjen Robben, others linked. Yeah, I'd like to come to MLS at some point. Maybe I want to play in MLS. Maybe I want to finish my career in MLS. There is a massive difference between a Robben, a Diego, a whoever, and Zlatan or Beckham or Messi or Ronaldo. Do you think let's go with Robben because he's going to leave Bayern Munich here very soon. If a team brings in Arjen Robben, do you think that's going to result in a whole bunch of season ticket sales and a whole bunch of tickets? Is that going to move the needle in that market? Nope. There are very few players that capture the complete market. Not every big-name player from Europe or South America does. Lionel Messi would. You sign Lionel Messi to any team in MLS, and you're in every mainstream bit of media you can possibly be in. Wayne Rooney was that in D.C. Cristiano Ronaldo obviously would be that. Others, they're good signings, and they can be very good signings from a soccer perspective. But they're not the signings that sometimes I think we try to put on them. Diego is not Kaká in terms of getting mainstream attention in Orlando. That's why I don't think that move makes any sense. But again, it's Orlando, and you can't really be surprised by anything Orlando City does at this point. We're going to take a break, come back, get into your Wall Pass Wednesday questions after this.
Sweet strawberry icing. You're in Goodwill, and just past that vintage denim jacket, you spot miniature donut earrings. You lean in. Ah, that's the scent of shopping success. Because at Goodwill, every item you buy funds local job training and more. So bring home those donut earrings and bring home so much good to your community. Goodwill. Bring good home. Brought to you by Goodwill and the Ad Council.
Soccer Down Here is sponsored by Appolinsky & Associates, LLC, personal injury lawyers with over 30 years of experience. Call Steve Apolinski at 518-350-4231 or email him at steve@aa-legal.com if you need help with a wrongful death or serious injury matter. Steve Apolinski is rated one of the top 100 trial attorneys in Georgia, recognized as legal elite by Georgia Trend magazine for being one of the most effective lawyers in Georgia.
Hamilton was adopted from a rescue in 2008. He really likes to be around people. I get out my mat and I'm doing a downward dog and he's underneath. He's quite the pug about town. He gets invited to a lot of parties. He knows he's a pretty big deal. Look at this little face. How could you not love him?
Hamilton the Pug, Instagram star and shelter pet. Amazing adoption stories start in shelters. Visit theshelterpetproject.org to find a pet near you. Brought to you by Maddie's Fund, the Humane Society of the United States, and the Ad Council.
As a business owner, you know that every year brings new challenges and opportunities. The success of your business demands expertise and focus. And Country Financial can help you keep that focus by helping ensure you have the right insurance protection in place to meet your goals. Jason Wright can help you create a customized insurance plan that has coverages designed just for your business. Give Jason a call at 678-568-6871 or reach him on Facebook at Jason Wright Agency. Coverages vary by state. Policies issued by Country Mutual Insurance Company, Bloomington, Illinois.
Welcome back, Soccer Down Here, December 5th. We have a few folks out there with golden tickets for the show, and a golden ticket has been redeemed. Jay Riddle joining us right now, associate producer emeritus of Soccer Down Here. Jay Riddle, what's up, Jay?
Guys, nothing's going to stop us, and nothing's going to stop me from not sleeping, apparently, because I was up all night making videos.
I just like to think of this as Jay's cashing in his money in the bank.
Yes.
Well, I felt like, thinking back to the first time I called in on the phone number when I figured out that the line was just open a couple years ago, I'm just pinching myself because I could have never imagined this moment. And at Fido yesterday, while, during that 2-hour show, I was just sort of absorbing everything and just realizing how far we've come just as a city. I mean, everything, you guys, the whole deal. And so I wanted to call in and ask you guys, if Atlanta hoists the cup on Saturday, what are you guys specifically going to do to celebrate?
Man, good question, and I will not allow myself to think about it. I honestly won't. I
had a feeling.
Yeah, it's not like I'm not like crazy superstitious, although I definitely am. I mean, I have grown a bit of a playoff goatee, so that's happened. I have my routine, on a game day at home that I have to follow. If I don't, I feel like I mess things up. So all that will happen. I'm not like crazy superstitious about not looking ahead, but I honestly want it to be genuine, organic. I don't want to plan anything out. I'm like Mike in this regard with calls on the radio. Like, I don't think of lines, like I don't have a list. I don't have a sheet of paper in front of me. Like, okay, if this happens, I'm going to say this. I can't think that way. So for me, I'm not even thinking about it. I'm just thinking about everything up to kickoff. That's all I'm focused on at this stage is, okay, I've got this interview. Okay, I've got this place to be. Okay, I want to be there for State of the League on Friday when Don Garber addresses everything. Okay, Saturday it's starting with the tailgate show and then crossing over with Unrelegated with you guys and then hopping on radio and then going in the building and everything we'll be doing in pregame and kickoff. Like, that's the last thing on my list is kickoff at 8:08. Beyond that, I have no idea what happens.
Yeah, so I vividly remember watching the Super Bowl with one of my best friends. It was 28-3. You may have heard of it. And I remember thinking, Grady Jarrett might win the MVP. I'm so excited that Jonathan Babineau is going to get a Super Bowl ring after he played for so many crappy Falcons teams. If that didn't happen, I'm kind of nervous to get ahead of myself, but at the same time, I have thought about it. Like, what would I do? Like, oh, that's right, I have to run down and cover post game, and probably put like a waterproof case on my phone so it doesn't get covered in champagne. And for Menace camera to make sure that doesn't get destroyed, and for all of our equipment. And it's kind of one of those things. I think it's the same way with the Red Bulls game, the first one. I just remember walking down the tunnels to the locker room after they'd won 3-0 and just kind of being in shock. Like, did that just happen? Did they just boat race New York? And then afterward, like walking out of there being like, what the hell did they just do? So it kind of takes a little bit to decompress for me, honestly. It takes an hour or so, but at the Cup, I don't know. I'm kind of afraid to let myself dream that much, but at the same time, yeah, I don't know. I think it's like a lot of things. It's going to be organic and it's going to be amazing and fun. And hey, this city, if it happens, this city will have deserved it.
Well, I am kind of with you guys. I don't really think that far ahead, but some things are just science. And if we hoist the Cup, I have to get a star above my tattoo, along with my tattoo buddy, Tom Thornton, who is on all the buses and MARTA trains, has much more defined arms than I do. So they put him up there. But I think that's something we're going to go do together. That would be pretty cool to go back to. We had the same tattoo artist to go and do a session together. Would be really neat, especially since he travels the world most of the time. He flew in from the Pacific like 8, 9, 10 hours, dropped a couple grand just to fly, or $4,000 just to fly home for Saturday, and then turn around Sunday and fly back to the Pacific Rim somewhere. So crazy stuff. Last thing I was asking, what do you think, Jason? What are you guys expecting in terms of turnout, in terms of like international press and all of that stuff? Are we talking like MLS All-Star levels or what?
That's a good one. I think it will be somewhat comparable to MLS All-Star. It's a little harder because All-Star for an international, media contingent, where it's going to be a year out. So, like, you already have people planning on being in Orlando next year for it because you know when it's going to be. This, you didn't know. You could narrow it down to 2, and you didn't know for sure until last Thursday night. So, I don't know if it'll be a huge international contingent. I think it'll be a big domestic contingent, and I think it will be a massive local contingent and regional contingent. I think it will be the most credentials ever for an MLS Cup. I don't know what that number is. I'll be curious to hear those things as they start to come out as we get deeper into this week. I think we'll get a better sense of it, honestly, starting today as you start to get national media in town talking about it. I know the MLS digital staff is on their way. I think they do their first show from Atlanta tonight. You have the MVP announcement this afternoon. Stephen Goff says that's at 2 o'clock today in Atlanta. We know there was a press conference scheduled at 2 o'clock, so you can start to connect the dots and wonder who this might be. Your finalists were Joseph Martinez, Miguel Almiron, Carlos Vela, Wayne Rooney, Zlatan Ibrahimovic. We'll see what happens at 2 o'clock, but it would not be a shock if it's Joseph Martinez. That would have been my vote.
Well, Franco's going to be the third man. He's going to come out of the back.
There you go. I think once you get that, you start to get people on the ground. You'll start to get a sense of how it ramps up. But I think this is the biggest MLS Cup by far, and it's not just going to be attendance. It's going to be TV rating. It's going to be attention. It's going to be the whole package that this will, in a way, to me, I think, shock MLS into looking at MLS Cup as a bigger deal. I said on Jason Davis's show earlier this week on SiriusXM that this has a Super Bowl kind of feel to it. I don't think Jason, followed where I was going. He was talking more about ticket prices and that type of stuff. I'm talking about vibe. This is a massive deal, and I don't think MLS has ever had this for this event. So it might not be as much international media as All-Star, but I think overall media and overall attention will surpass All-Star.
Well, I look forward to it. I did read in the Oregonian that that MLS allotted 400 more tickets to Timbers Army, so now they now have 1,700, and so they have a section next to the away section. So that's good to see that they upped that, and they were clear that they said that actually historically 900 was sort of the standard across the board. But as I said, listen, we've broken every standard there is. There's no reason why we should stick to historical metrics. So I'm glad that they we're flexible with that. I know it's not the 2,000 or 3,000 that some people wanted, but I think that's a good number. And lastly, guys, I just want to thank you guys for all the work you do and that you put in every day, and for this show, for Stoppage Time, for other things at 92.9. And I look forward to seeing you guys at the tailgate, Faction Tailgate, when you guys go on at 1:30, and Kelly and I will hop on afterwards on top of the trailer, weather permitting, and do a show as well.
Awesome, man. Thanks for everything. Thanks for supporting us from pretty much day one and shouting it out and all that you do to grow the scene. I mean, I've told you a bunch of times, man, like Atlanta soccer wouldn't be what it is without, I think, the attitude that you put out there, and that creates the vibe of what Atlanta soccer is, and it's different than anywhere else in the country. You know, it's a different vibe, it's a different feel, and it's far more open and inclusive, and that's why you get new fans jumping on board and feel open to joining supporters groups, to joining the scene, and it's not a closed deal. It's not like a special secret club like it feels like in other parts of the country. It is a big, massive thing that's taken over the city, and you're a big part of that too.
We're a big family, man, and I look forward to a big party on Saturday. So you guys hang in there, and GSU, baby.
Atlanta es familia, mi amigo. All right, let's take our final break. Let's come back. We'll get an update on Columbus because we have a little more detail there, and we will finish off with the Wall Pass Wednesday questions of the day. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
The average time a resume spends on an HR manager's desk is 7 seconds, and most of them are tossed aside. Now imagine if one of those resumes belonged to Yasmin, who was
living in a shelter, juggling 3 jobs. I had to be resilient. That's something that you can't teach.
We rely so much on a resume, yet it could never tell the full story of someone who
had to be independent and take initiative. And that's how I handle every project I get.
Discover new ways to develop great talent at gradsoflife.org. Brought to you by Grads of Life and the Ad Council.
We know that every driver is different, and a one-size policy does not fit all. That's why Country Financial offers a variety of discounts, so you get the coverage you need and the savings you deserve. From good driver to good student, multi-policy to multi-car, we've got a discount to suit every driver. Call Jason Wright at 678-568-6871 today to see what you could save. On Facebook at Jason Wright Agency, or by phone at 678-568-6871. Discounts vary by state. Policies issued by Country Mutual Insurance Company, Country Preferred Insurance Company, or Country Casualty Insurance Company, Bloomington, Illinois.
Hey, hon, what you doing with your phone? Taking pictures?
No, I'm asking it questions.
Like what?
Hey, Bobo, do flowers have best friends?
I'm sorry. I'm afraid I don't know that.
Hey, follow me. I want to show you something. Look, flowers do have best friends.
Whoa.
Some answers can only be found in nature. Discover the unsearchable. Visit discovertheforest.org to find a trail near you. Brought to you by the United States Forest Service and the Ad Council.
Soccer Down Here is sponsored by Appolinsky & Associates, LLC, personal injury lawyers with over 30 years of experience. Call Steve Appolinsky at 518-350-4231 or email him at steve@aa-legal.com if you need help with a wrongful death or serious injury matter. Steve Appolinsky is rated one of the top 100 trial attorneys in Georgia, recognized as legal elite by Georgia Trend magazine for being one of the most effective lawyers in Georgia.
Welcome back. Final segment. Soccer Down Here. Wall Pass Wednesday, December 5th. A few days away from MLS Cup at Mercedes-Benz Stadium. But we had some other news around the league today. Columbus had a press conference to make some pretty big announcements on what's next in Columbus. John, what was the update out of Ohio?
Okay, here's the Cliffs Notes version. There was a presser at Montfrey Stadium led by Mayor Andrew Ginthner. He basically admitted that if the Crew had moved to Austin, Montfrey would have been one of the largest vacant properties in the city. But now, once the Crew moves into their new facility, scheduled for 2 years' time, Montfrey will turn into what is referred to as the Columbus Community Sports Park, where you will have 7 community fields, an indoor turf facility, 2 MLS fields, and it will be the new training facility for the Columbus franchise since they currently train in Obetz. They will play in Montfrey for 2 more years while a new stadium is built, and then it will turn into the public use facility. There should be a hearing on Thursday for public input. And let's see, I'm trying to get all of my Columbus guys squared away here. Shannon Hardin, City Council President, says it's going to be a benefit to the Linden neighborhood. Councilmember Elizabeth Brown was the one who said there's going to be a public hearing about the new proposal Thursday at 6, but they have to move quickly because MLS has a deadline of the end of the year to know what will happen with Columbus Crew SC. So that's where we are with all of that. So right now it is heading in a direction of the Columbus Community Sports Park in 2 years' time. No plans for a new stadium announced today, likely coming in the next few weeks.
Yeah, it sounds like it's all contingent. So you get the approval, you get the approval of a new stadium, then you announce a new stadium. 2 years, when that happens, that's when this turns into a community sports park that will be a training facility for Columbus, but also much more. Seems to all make sense, but they are up against it. I mean, if MLS has set that deadline, this is probably tied to the ownership change as well. I think they're confident in it because they're allowing the new ownership group to be involved in hiring a new manager and general manager and all that, but it's also not 100% done yet, so we shall see. We'll keep our eyes on Columbus and everything going on there. We have a signing in MLS. Montreal Impact announced signing Harry Novillo. He is a 26-year-old winger from Martinique. He's played in Australia. He was on the Australian A-League Team of the Season following the 2015-16 campaign. He's played with Melbourne City. Let's see. He's originally from Lyon. Made his professional debut in Ligue 1 against Monaco with Lyon, and then went to Australia. He's played 2 games with the Martinique national team in the 2014 CONCACAF Caribbean Cup. He had previously appeared for France's U19s. So Montreal's getting a little bit younger on the wing. They probably needed to do that as they start to upgrade for 2019. Joey Saputo will not accept Montreal missing the playoffs again after recent failures. So I think he's going to spend. I think he's going to be aggressive, and I think this is not the first move for the Impact by far as the Eastern Conference gets more competitive. Let's finish up with the Wall Pass Wednesday hashtag timeline on the Twitters, John, before we finish up with the attacking units, the attacking groups, and the way Atlanta and Portland will attack on Saturday.
Tafka TLC, going back to hour number 1, had the exact same thought you did about college football comparisons to soccer a week ago. The fact that no player is there for more than 4 years is the only reason tenures are so long. The voice doesn't get old because the ears cycle out, and then in all caps, get out of my head.
Yeah, you were in my head. Anyway, it's one of those deals where, look, sometimes you have to have a different voice because you just tune it out, and you're going to see this with soccer more and more. I think you see it with the top managers and the top clubs where you won't see Alex Ferguson, you won't see Arsene Wenger anymore. I think that's incredibly rare. Those guys, and especially Ferguson, with the different teams that he built, one, he was able to recycle the roster as it needed to, but also he was able to change his approach as needed as well. And that was a big part of it, and how he was able to keep a group invested in what was happening and to be able to keep a core. I mean, he had Paul Scholes, Ryan Giggs. He had guys for a long period of time. So that's not easy to do. I think it's going to be less and less common as we go forward.
Then Riley Maletsky has, did you talk about Jeremy Abobasi and his speed? Or do you want to save that one for tactics?
Save it for the last bit.
Okay, so that one goes tactics. And then let's see, what else are we talking about here? Tafka then says 2026. MLS goes to 34 teams. MLS splits into 2. Promoting a team, forms a joint venture with USL, permits 4 teams to promotion in MLS. Those 4 teams compete, the other goes down. So Tafka TLC is setting the future 8 years from now with multiple divisions.
Yeah, my head just broke. I'm not ready for that right now.
Yeah, exactly. Joe McCurdy has something really cool. He says, what Atlanta MLS Cup means to me, part 2. I played soccer here at Oglethorpe University, go Stormy Petrels. While there, got jobs making the game program for the indoor team Atlanta Attack, who played at the Omni and covered them for the Gwinnett Daily News.
Pretty sweet. The Attack lasted 2 years before they moved to Kansas City. They had a minor local celebrity in Drago as one of their key players. And they also had a goalkeeper, Yarrow. Yeah, lots of one-name guys here. Yarrow, the crazy thing about him is he went on to be part of the USA team handball squad in the 1996 Olympics. He stayed in the Atlanta area for a long time.
And then Riley has a question. 2 purple kits in MLS? Question mark? With 2 question marks.
Yeah, we were talking about Louisville City.
Got it. Okay. Then we were officially caught up on Walpassy and stuff. So then I guess let's go back to the Jeremy Ebobisse point. Yeah.
Yeah. Let's talk about that. Let's talk about the way these teams attack as we finish up. So Bobby Warshaw had a breakdown of like player groups, and he put the players in different groups. I don't think that's the way to do this here. Let's talk about how Atlanta will attack and how Portland will attack. So earlier on, we talked about those little societies and Joseph Martinez, Miguel Almiron, getting them together, getting Miguel up as a second forward in this 3-5-2, putting those 2 players closer to one another on the field. It has worked really well, and it gives Atlanta a constant out. You don't have to have a ton of possession. You don't have to, build up a number of passes to move the opposition around, as we've seen Atlanta do all season. You can let those 2 go figure it out. Period. It's a very simple way. And against NYC, against the Red Bulls, where you weren't going to have much possession, it was the smart way. Portland's a little different. So what I wonder, and it's one of my biggest questions coming in, will you see Tata Martino bring Miguel Almiron back into the midfield, or will he stay as a second forward? If you bring him back into the midfield, does that create a spot for Tito Villalba to start? Do you want to get another game changer on the field from the start in this match? I could see Tata Martino opting for that. But then who do you pull? Who do you change? And I think it comes down to Julian Gressel going back to the right wing, Franco Escobar potentially coming inside as a third center back if you stay in the 3-5-2, and Jeff Larentowicz. Do you have him come off the bench in this game? That's a really tough spot to be in. Do you have Franco Escobar come off the bench in this game? That's a tough spot to be in based off how he played against Red Bulls. Or do you keep with what's been working, and do you keep Tito Villalba coming in as a super sub in the second half? This is the biggest question about Atlanta's attack for me. I think for Portland, it's a little more cut and dried. I mean, you're going to play, barring a big change from Giovanni Savarese, you're going to play Jeremy Ebobisse up top. You're going to have Diego Valeri and Sebastian Blanco in key roles in the attack, period. I don't think you see Samuel Armenteros come back into this team here. Ebobisse gives you a player with more range, more speed. He's been very good in the second half of the season, and he also is a little more selfless in terms of making the runs off the ball to create that space for Blanco and for Valeri. Andy Polo is another one who is kind of a mixed guy here, and you have to figure out what you do with him if you're Giovanni Savarese. We've seen Polo play centrally in a 3-man central midfield. We've also seen him out wide here lately in the 4-2-3-1. I think you're going to see the 4-2-3-1 to start. I don't think Portland's going to get too crazy and change things up here. And Polo is a dynamic winger who will give Atlanta some problems out wide. You're going to have somebody step up here. Polo is one of those guys that if Atlanta is able to lock down Valeri and Blanco a little bit, Polo is the next guy up for the Timbers in terms of having an impact in this match. So you have to account for him, and the fact that he can play centrally and out wide, Savarese can move him around a little bit and find the best angle for him to attack. Valeri can move out wide. Blanco can play central out wide. You have 3 in that attacking midfield who can play each of the roles. It's not really about right, middle, left. It's more about those three finding the right combination to break down Atlanta. And when you have three guys like that who are on the same page, as we've seen in the postseason, Portland can give anybody problems.
So put your coaching hat on for a second. With a guy like Ebobisse, and as much as we were fans of him and are fans of him, with a system like Portland runs, do you ever worry? Is it irrational to ever worry about him turning off for a half second when you're not playing with the ball and he's playing up top? Do you ever worry about him switching off for a second and missing a chance at that run?
No, I think that's what actually took him the time to get the starting role. I think coming in as a young player, we knew he was explosive. We knew what he could do with the ball. It was, what is he going to do without the ball? What is he going to do to contribute to the whole team? Last year, we didn't see him very much. He played a good bit with Timbers too. This year, early on, you didn't see him a whole lot. You also had Fernando Adi, then Armenteros come in, and Armenteros lit the league on fire for a little while. So he was third in the pecking order. This is where I think you have to give Giovanni Savarese a ton of credit, is he kept working with him. And Savarese, for those of you who didn't watch MLS in the early days, Giovanni Savarese was one of the best forwards this league has ever seen. So for Ebobisse to have a coach and a mentor like Savarese, I think it's unlocked this part of his game where he is switched on consistently. I mean, Ebobisse has natural physical gifts that Savarese would have killed to have in his career. He wasn't an explosive player in that regard. Savarese was a poacher. Savarese was a guy inside the 18 who's going to kill you. Ebobisse can do more than that. But I think what Savarese has brought to him is that other side of it, where he doesn't switch off, where he can be a contributor without the ball, where he makes those runs off the ball, where he becomes more of a selfless player for this team. I think a lot of that goes down to Savarese really working with him and taking him to the next level. He scares me in the regard that he is explosive. Go back and look at what he did at UCLA. Look at some of the wonder goals he's had. At Duke, sorry, not UCLA. Some of the wonder goals that he's had in his career in the youth side, in the college side. If it breaks down and Valeri and Blanco are unable to find that space, Ebobisse is capable of something magic too. Now, he's a young player, and he's not really been asked to be that guy for the Timbers. But in a final, when things shut down, he's capable of a big moment for the Timbers. That's another player you have to keep tabs on if you're Atlanta United.
So for me, I was trying to think about this formationally. And last night when you were going through the discussion of, basically it was the Whiteboard Chronicles section of the program. And I was trying to figure out the best way to get through that first 20 minutes without it having spiraling out of control as I try to clear my throat.
No, it's a different situation. It's not that conversation. It's not the survive the first 20 minutes type of deal, because that's how Portland is thinking. That's not how Atlanta's thinking coming into this. This is not second leg Red Bull Arena. It's not even first leg at home against Red Bulls. It's not the NYC series, because what flips in this is Portland is fine sitting back and saying, nope, you're going to have the ball. We're going to sit deeper, and we're going to win possession here, and then we're going to start our attack. That's a very different mentality than Atlanta has faced in quite a while. So it's not getting through the first 15 or 20 minutes here for Atlanta. It's what do you do with the first 15 or 20 minutes? How open do you want to be? Because it's not a survival thing. It's a, do you need to grow into the game? Do you need to maybe, move your foot back and forth between the gas pedal and the brake? Maybe, you want to slow down a little bit because you're going to be keyed up. You're going to be fired up in front of this crowd. You're going to be fired up because of the occasion. Do you need to focus on maybe taking a breath in the early going? That's a different feel. It's not the same setup here. Now, that's why I wonder if Tata Martino does get a little more aggressive here in the lineup. Do you see Tito Villalba from the start? Do you find a way to get him in? And if you do, who do you sacrifice? It's not an easy decision. You do have to think about this match as 120 minutes, though. You can't go in thinking, okay, it is just 90 minutes to survive, and that's it. You've got to plan for 120. You've got to plan to have a player on the bench who can change it from a defensive standpoint or from an attacking standpoint. You're going to have either Villalba or Barco on the bench, maybe both. From an attacking, game-changing element, you've got options. Defensively, do you have that? You might not. It might be Miles Robinson as a bench option. Maybe Jeff Larentowicz, depending on what you do. If you have to make a sub to shut things down late, if you have a lead and Portland's throwing everything they have at you and you got to make a change, who is it? You do have to think through that. Portland has to think through it too. Is Armenteros going to be that guy off the bench? Who is going to be that defensive option? Is Lawrence Olam a guy who can change things for you defensively? You can play as a center back. You can play as a holding midfielder. What are your changes potentially going to be? That factors in too. But first 15-20 for me here. For Atlanta, the question is, how do you manage the emotion of it? Are you going to be too keyed up? Are you going to be too adventurous? Are you going to get maybe too far ahead of yourself? If you're Portland, you really do want to ease into this. You want to get some possession and take the air out of the ball and slow it down because you're capable of that. You don't have to just clear it long and reset and play scared. You can get your foot on the ball and play some keep away because you have the players to do it with Chara, with Guzman, with Valeri, with Blanco, with Polo. Once you get it, you can keep it for a minute. And I think Portland will be very wise to do that early and try to slow Atlanta down and slow the crowd down a little bit and slow down their effect of it. So first 15-20, I think for both teams here from an attacking perspective, I don't think it gets too crazy by design. Now, if you find an early goal, then it will get absolutely nuts either way. But I think both teams would come in and like to be scoreless after the first 15 or 20 and settle into the game. And I think that's generally how a final goes.
So then is Barca the one you hold back? Because if you're thinking about it from a 120 perspective, his history lends itself to being there in those pressure situations.
Yeah, it does. I mean, I don't see how you find a spot for him without changing a lot of things here. I mean, Villalba, I could easily see a lineup of the back three with Escobar sliding inside, with Gressel sliding out to the right wing back role, with your midfield of Remedi, Nagbe, Almiron, with Villalba and Martinez up top. I could see that very comfortably with Larentowicz coming off the bench. I don't see going to Barco directly and playing him as the 10 in this role, or the second forward in this role. I think Tito would be the next guy up if you decide to get one more, game-changing attacking player in the starting lineup from the jump. So Barco's going to be a guy off the bench here, and he can play in a variety of roles depending on what you need. He can play as a second forward. He can play as a 10. He can play as a left winger if you go 4-2-3-1. He can play as a right winger if you go 4-2-3-1. So you have options. I don't see him getting into the starting lineup. I don't think it's the easiest move to do. I think it changes too much if you try to go in that direction.
Sorry, my run-on questions got us into stoppage time.
That's all good. Anything else?
But no, just when we're caught up on the wall pass section. Although that Five Stripes Bevington is promoting your appearance on Thursday.
Yes, I will be on with Ricky Bevington, all things considered, 5:45 on Thursday. You can watch on Facebook Live. You can listen on 88.5 FM, and it's going to be a fun conversation. I'm looking forward to it. I think we've got the radio segment, and then I think we're doing a longer Facebook Live segment after, so stay tuned.
And, of course, what does she do? She wants to challenge the listeners with the most challenging soccer question that is out there for them today, and the leaders in the clubhouse are allocation money, homegrowns, DPs, and other things.
We don't have enough time to break all that down because we still try to break it down on a daily basis here, and there we go. One more question I don't think we got to from Michael Ruiz earlier on. He said, can Portland really afford to play 90 minutes of defensive counter-attacking ball that only works for so long, especially if they go down first or if it's tied after the 60th minute? Eventually they have to break out of that shape. They're different than some of the other defensive counterattacking teams. When they do it, I think it is a way to get possession and work possession the way they want. It has a different feel to me. I don't look at them as a bunkering team at any stretch. If they go down first, then all bets are off. Things change. Look at what they did in the second half in Kansas City. They went down first, and they came out and won the second half 3-1 in Kansas City. So they're capable of it. They're smart though. Savaresi's been in these situations before. He's been in four out of the last 5 years. He's been to a final, so he knows the caginess that goes on in a final. If they concede, they're going to have to step out and play, and they have the players to do it. But they're also going to do what Tata Martino has talked about all postseason. They're going to limit risk. They want to limit the amount of chances they concede. So Portland's way to attack will be to recover possession deep and then build up an attack and try to find Valeri and Blanco in dangerous positions. But they're going to work to that. These aren't guys you hit on the break on a long ball and they run onto it for the most part. These are guys that you want to work your possession to creating a mismatch, to creating an overload, to creating an opportunity that Valeri and Blanco can take advantage of. And if they can't, then you look to Andy Polo and Jeremy Ebobisse to do that. Atlanta, not all that different, to be honest. In a perfect world, when they play the way that they truly want, they're going to work possession to create those opportunities for Joseph Martinez, for Miguel Almiron, to break a team down, to put them in a 1v1 dangerous situation or a 2v1 dangerous situation. Or the other thing we've seen Atlanta do quite often is find that opportunity for Julian Gressel to have that back-breaking pass, whether it's a cross from out wide or a splitting through ball. He's capable of that. So each team has a couple different ways they can hurt you. Both teams in the postseason have shown that ability to limit risk, but also not play a negative game. Now, Atlanta had the luxury of playing more negative in the second leg against the Red Bulls because you had a 3-0 lead in the first leg. That's a different situation entirely. That's a different scenario entirely. One-game final, all bets are off in that regard. I think both teams come out and want to limit risk, but also try to attack in the way that suits them. And for both, generally, it's possession. It's working the ball around to create the opportunities for your game changers. You want Valeri, you want Blanco on the ball in the final third with an opportunity to score. You want Joseph Martinez, you want Miguel Almiron on the ball in the final third with an opportunity to score, and you have some plan Bs if you can't create that easily. Both of these teams can do that to you, and both of these teams have that ability to hurt you in key moments. That's why this final matches up as one of the best finals in MLS history, in my opinion.
And now I think we're officially caught up.
And we are caught up, and we are donezo for Wildcats Wednesday. Thanks, everybody, for listening. We appreciate it. Thanks, everybody who came out last night for a Stoppage Time Live supersized edition at Fido Irish Pub in Buckhead. That's now available as a podcast on the Off the Woodwork folder in your iTunes and your Stitcher and all of your stuff if you're subscribed to Off the Woodwork from 92.9 The Game. Thank you. Tomorrow we'll start to dig into the midfield and how that part works for both of these teams, how both have players who are capable of playing both sides of the midfield, guys who can sit and defend and break up attacks, but then also start attacks themselves. This game could easily come down to Diego Chara and Eric Remedi. Could easily see that scenario playing out because both are key in that regard. We'll talk about how important they are tomorrow as we go. We'll also talk to Felipe Cardenas and get his thoughts as we get closer to MLS Cup on Saturday. Thanks, everybody. Mucho plata, y'all.
Mucho plata, y'all.
Mucho mop, y'all.